What's up, everyone? Week 5 in the books and another highly entertaining week in the world of college football. As always, Jason Gans, Laurence Kessler joining us for Sports and Torch presentation of, I like that tip the cap, of college football's last call. Happy to have you guys here, whether it is on the podcast or on the J. Stein Law Firm YouTube channel. Those of you who are watching us, hello. How are y'all doing? I know that Jared Schlosser People's Champs watches on the big screen. So what's up, Jared? How you doing, buddy? Guys, I'm going to start off because the word that I'm going to use to describe the Georgia game is just fun. I thought it was fun getting back into like a rivalry game type of situation where you get the blood pumping for a game in September, fun making a comeback, fun having the text messages, all the feels that go with it, fun watching it with my boy Big Leader 99. So, look, there's a lot of criticism out there. A lot of people saying, are the dogs this, are they that? I had a fun time watching the game. That's my word. Guys, what was y'all's takeaway?
Gans, I'll let you start, and I'll wrap up since I was watching the game with our host here.
Sure. Survive and move on. The Dogs went to the Plains, came back with a victory. Any road game in the SEC is tough. Auburn was, 3-1 going into the game. They played pretty well. Their defense, we knew their defense would be good. Their offense had some new wrinkles to it this week. Just happy with the victory. And let's look towards next week. I'll get into the game a little bit, but that's sort of my initial reaction. Oh, and one more thing. There's this guy at number 19, pretty freaking good.
It's pretty damn fun to watch a guy just like stand out amongst every other player in college football and put himself on the roadmap for the Heisman Trophy. But listen, we're two-time defending national champs. I'm not sure if people remember that. We're getting everybody's best shot. And as we've mentioned the past couple of weeks, we're still a relatively young and inexperienced team. The one thing that I'm taking away from that game, besides Brock Bowers just being an absolute man amongst boys, is the growth that we saw Carson Beck take from the first half to the second half of that game, where he started out looked a little shaky. He missed Delp, which would have changed the whole trajectory of the game to begin with. But he missed him. First half was slow and sloppy, like most of our first halves have been. And then he came out in the second half and played, I thought, lights out. I mean, we had the 3 drives to tie, take the lead, and then win the game. Were a 10-play, 98-yard drive, a 7-play, 71-yard drive, and then a 7-play, 75-yard drive with 7 catches coming from 19, with one that even got called back that was the most ridiculous catch I've seen all season. So, Auburn came to play. We looked sloppy. I had a blast watching the game, and listen, it's good to it's more fun than just beating the crap out of these teams when you're done at halftime and you're bored.
So speaking of halftime, I mean, Kirby, I haven't seen it. Maybe it has been released, but the halftime speech he gave this weekend, I don't know. But my God, bottle that up and sell it, because whatever he's telling these guys at the half, it's working. I would like to see us get off to a quicker start. Laurence, you nailed it. That first pass to Delp that he just, Beck, little air under that, let him run underneath it. That's 7, and who knows. But the word that I think of with Beck is composure. He showed a lot of composure in that third and fourth quarter, making big third down plays. Kirby seems to have all the confidence in the world in him, which tells me a lot. Y'all both mentioned Brock. How can you not? He's the lead. He took over the game. I mean, they knew the ball was coming to him. They still couldn't stop him. That last touchdown was men versus boys. It's just insane. I think I told you, Laurence, that he has surpassed Todd Gurley for me in my all-time greats. Gurley held it for a long time, but number 19, he's my guy. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I watched that replay of his 40-yard touchdown, I don't know, a dozen times. It's actually hysterical. The Auburn defender, number 4, was petrified of him. And the guy basically ran away. That guy's going to catch so much shit in film this week. And you said it, right? It's a man amongst boys out there. 2 one-handed catches in a row. In terms of Carson Beck, what I've realized is when he has a clean pocket, he's as good as anyone in the country. The guy throws a fantastic ball. He is accurate when he has a clean pocket. If I was a defensive coordinator, I in that game I would have sold out. When he starts moving and he's got to run around, he feels a little pressure, he's not as good. So far on the season, I'd say Carson Beck has been a B, and I think that's pretty solid. He's got potential to be an A. The game overall, I disagree a little bit with you guys. I would have rather had a blowout. I ended up having more vodkas than I would like to have yesterday. There was some cause for concern. I never thought we were going to lose, but I was uncomfortable, let's just say. Defense is a big concern. We've lost four first round defensive linemen in the past two drafts. There's no making up for that. That is significant. There's been a lot of critique on the linebacker play. And when you don't have Jalen Carter in front of you, you don't have Jordan Davis, you don't have Devontae Wyatt, you don't have Trayvon Walker, it exposes things. Conversely, those guys make you look really good. Georgia had a tough time setting the edge yesterday, and Auburn ran all over us. Don't expect to see that this weekend. Kentucky's defense is a little bit different, or offense is a little bit different. I think we'll get into that as the show goes on. But they did get the job done when they needed to. Right? It was almost a bend but don't break defense. The final score is 27-20. They scored 14 points off of two crappy turnovers. Right? We cleaned that up. Delt's holding the ball like a loaf of bread, and that pick, part of it's on Beck, part of it's on Marcus Roseby, Jack Saint, part of it is that could have been pass interference. Clean those things up, and it's not a game. It's a 30-6 game, 30-10, 30-13.
He makes a clean pass to Delp, and the interception never. That was on the very next play, so it never happens. But I'm going to steal a good, bad, and ugly from you, Red.
There you go.
The good, it was great to see McConkey back out there. He makes huge third down catch after third down catch. Also, another good, Peyton Woodring, two clutch field goals.
Great point.
Yeah. The bad, I just think not real. Maybe it was a scheme. Maybe Hugh Freeze just saw a weakness, but not being able to spy the quarterback or be able to contain the quarterback and allow for some big runs over and over and over again. I agree with you. We got to clean that up before we play Kentucky, because apparently they have the second coming of I don't know, Emmitt Smith or Herschel Walker back in their backfield, who ran for 280 yards against the Florida Gators. In the ugly, quite frankly, I feel like not only were we playing against the Auburn Tigers, we were playing against some one-sided officiating as well on Saturday. I hate to blame the Zebras, but there were some really bad missed calls in that game. But listen, a road win is a road win. Auburn, they showed a stat during the game. The last 4 Auburn home games against a number 1 team, Auburn has won. And so to get out there with a win, with Beck's first real true SEC road test, hey, all good. And I think this is we're a team that we are going to gel late. This is just creating character, and it's going to put us in a good spot for when we get into some big games later in the season.
So, Larry, just 2 things I wanted to touch on that you mentioned. One is we now have won 16 out of our last 19 games against Auburn, which is insane, right? For a rivalry, the Deep South's oldest rivalry. The last time Auburn beat us was in 2017 in Auburn. This is a one-sided kind
We were the number 1 team.
We were. This is a one-sided ass drubbing. The second thing that you brought up, again, I don't like to blame refs. We won the game, so it doesn't matter. It's water under the bridge. Auburn had 1 penalty for 5 yards. Their quarterback ran 2 yards past the line of scrimmage, then threw a forward pass, not reviewed, nothing, but the refs are reviewing Brock Bowers rolling around on the ground and letting the ball go as a fumble.
Forgot about that one.
Dejan touched the ground 14 times before he coughed the ball up, and they're reviewing that. The refs were atrocious. There's a ton of holds. It happens all the time, but whatever. We won. Fortunately, it didn't matter. I also agree. The last point I wanted to agree with you on is I'm hoping that Auburn was sort of like Missouri last year, right? You go in, and it's a wake-up call, and let this team – look back to the 2007. Georgia almost lost to Vanderbilt, and then we went out, and they got the team together, I realized, as a Mark Richt team, and then steamrolled everybody the rest of the season. 2012, we lost to South Carolina, came back. 17, you lose. The team takes on new identity. So I'm hoping that, we come out with a big statement win this weekend, move forward, and that's who we are.
So Laurence, if I could add one to your good category, I'd like to say that we made the good decision to switch to bourbon at halftime strategically. Usually you try to wait till the sun goes down, but they needed us, man. They needed to change momentum. We did our part. You also did not sit down again during the entire second half, unless I'm wrong. Like, I remember you and Sammy standing up and pacing and doing your thing, which, that's you got to do what you got to do. So those are the two goods.
When you find that spot that works, you got to stay there.
You got to stay
Brown
there.
liquor, standing up behind the sofa, comeback win. We'll keep it going.
There you go. Okay. The one thing that I'd add to, I don't know if it's bad or I don't know if it's ugly, but I don't love the distribution of carries for running backs right now. Jason, you pointed out in the beginning that you didn't want Dejan or any one running back to have more than 20 carries. He had 19. The team had 30 total. If you back out Carson Beck, I think was 3 or 4, and you back out those team ones they call, there's only 6 other carries to running backs, 4 of them going to Dylan Bell. So I don't love that. I think we've got to figure out who that second horse is going to be. We want to be Milton, but time and time again, it's not. So anyway, I'd like to see that. Dejan's great, 2 touchdowns, but we need him fresh at the end of the season. So I'll just
What'd you think of the handoff on 3rd and 2 to Brock Bowers? I actually like that play call a lot. You need 2 yards. You give it to a moose and let him fall forward.
Josh, you bring up a good point. The identity of this team is totally different. Part of it's because of injury. We don't have the featured back or 2 features back, though I think Dejan's done a great job. This is going to be Carson Beck threw 33 passes yesterday. As you mentioned, 30 runs. It's going to be a pass first team. Conversely, on the other side of the ball, historically Georgia's been known as just massive run stoppers and maybe a little suspect in the back half of the secondary. Totally opposite this year. Look at Malachar Starks is probably the best safety in the country. Javon Bullard is absolutely awesome. Kamar Lassiter. He's a shutdown corner. The secondary is fantastic. The D-line, I don't think they're bad, but we got so spoiled the past few years. So I think the identity of the defense is a little bit different in the sense that very, very strong against the pass and a little suspect yesterday against the run. So it's just worth pointing out and a little bit unique for a Kirby Smart coach football team.
So the last thing that I'll say about the Georgia-Auburn game before we move on to the other stuff we got to get to is, I said it last week and y'all agreed, like we like the Georgia-Auburn rivalry. We like Auburn. They did a great job on Saturday with the atmosphere in that stadium, the orange out, as they called it. And they had all the big guys in the house. Charles Barkley was there. Frank Thomas was there. Cam Newton, all dressed to the nines. So they put on a show. The crowd definitely played a role in that, but just a little bit short, guys. A little bit short for you guys over Auburn. All right, so the other game that I thought was very fun on Saturday was LSU Ole Miss impersonating the old Big 12 matchups where there's no defense, all points, 1,000+ yards combined. Very, very weird SEC game. Gans, you love Lane Kiffin. He came out ahead, 50+ points on Brian Kelly. What was up with that game?
So actually, and I'm not very good at math. I like to bring this up all the time. I believe there were 1,300 yards of total offense in that game, which is insane. Ole Miss had 700 yards of offense and just over, and LSU had just under. I think that the shine is going to come off the turd on Brian Kelly and Red Stick. You can't be giving up, 54 points to Ole Miss. I don't know. Look, how good does the Florida State win over LSU look at this point? I don't know. Parody.
Yeah, so Jaden Daniels got lifted up off the ground again. he's becoming a rag doll over there. Listen, I think it effectively eliminates LSU from SEC West contention. And I think in the preseason preview, you said no SEC West team will be undefeated. It's also possible the SEC West winner may have 2 losses.
Agreed.
But I think the only 2 undefeated teams right now in the SEC West are Bama and A&M in conference play, which is pretty wild. That game was just crazy. There was no semblance of defense whatsoever. It was silly. It was video game football, and I prefer a little more defense in my life.
The Ole Miss fans stormed the field afterwards. There's just great videos of that poor security guard in the end zone. I don't know if he was trying or what he was doing, but he was not keeping them off the field. It got me thinking, and I'd like to ask you guys, and sorry to put you on the spot, but are there some rules that these fans should follow when it comes to what warrants storming the field? I mean, is beating a, 1 loss already in September LSU team at home where 1,300 yards was put up really warrants storming the field? And if not, like, What is this? Is when should you do it? When should fans be able to storm the field?
Hey, listen, I think the Walton Raiders storm the field after every home win. So, listen, I think storming the field, if memory serves, the only time that we've done it in our history, in my memory of Georgia, is when we beat Tennessee. It was at 2002, 2001, after losing them 8 straight times. I mean, did that even really warrant storming the field? I think maybe you beat the number 1 team. South Carolina rushed the field a couple times in Lou Holtz's first years when they hadn't won a game in 3 years. They finally stormed the field. But yeah, beating LSU on a random Saturday night in September. Yeah, I think that is act like you've been there before. Not impressed with the storming of the field. I am impressed with the agility of the security guard, though, and the Matt Hardy-esque flip off the goalposts straight onto the turf.
Was there any significance to that win? I was by the time that happened. This guy was in La La Land between my clear vodka drinking during the game, and then we went out for a light bite afterwards, if you will. And I think I was poisoned with more vodka. So I don't remember. Is there significance? Is this the first time they beaten LSU at home, or Okay, so Laurence. I mean, we did storm the field, beating Tennessee after whatever. Listen, I don't blame a lot of Ole Miss's frat boys. They're following some of those co-eds onto the field. I would have done the same thing at 21.
Fair enough. All right, so the other two wins in the SEC, Bama kind of ride the ship a little bit. I thought that Milroe had a pretty good game, looked better. Tennessee, got back and took it to Spencer Rattler. So, again, I think we have to keep our eyes on those teams. Clearly, we're playing Tennessee, and I'm still not convinced we're not going to see Bama eventually. But anything stick out, Laurence, to you about those two games?
I think Bama's just a good team. I think the calls for their demise were a little bit quick. They're going to be a challenge. They're probably going to be representing the West in the SEC championship game in Atlanta. They're not the great Bama teams of old. They are the more of the old school, or the great Bama teams of recent memory. They're more consistent with the early Nick Saban teams. They're going to be a tough out no matter when you play them. I didn't watch any of that game, so really hard to comment on it, but I know they just handled their business pretty good. Tennessee, they were out for revenge against Spencer Rattler and the Gamecocks. They did suffer a really bad injury to their wide receiver, Brew McCoy. I think he's out for the season. It looked really bad, kind of like a Chubb-esque type foot pointing in the wrong direction, not good. And he's their best player on offense. They got a good win. They got the revenge on Rattler, but that's a big, big loss for them if McCoy is out for the season.
Yeah, in terms of Bama, I'm going to disagree with you. Are they good? Yeah. People are they beat Mississippi State, the sketchy dogs, by 21 points or something like that. People are making it like, they won Super Bowl II. I think that anytime that they're going to have to come from behind, they're going to have some big issues, because Jalen Milroe, yes, super athletic. He's not going to be able to get it done from them if they have a deficit, or he's got to put the team on their shoulders in the fourth quarter. I still think they lose another game. It could be this weekend. Weird things happen in Jordan-Hare. Weird things happen in Colt land, in Johnny Manziel land. So interesting. I think Bama's favored by 4.5 or 3.5, something like that. That's going to be a good game. I'm excited to watch that. In terms of Tennessee, it sucks with Brew McCoy. They still have a guy named Squirrel though, and Squirrel did have a nice game. But you know what? And I don't wish any injury upon any kid, and I do feel bad for him. But that field is the biggest piece of shit. It has taken so many ACLs on that field. Clean it up. I don't know what they do there, but again, Nick Chubb.
That's where Chubb got hurt. Yep.
Yeah. Nick Chubb, Keith Marshall, Justin Scott Wesley, just recent memory. Yeah.
Exactly. So I do feel bad for the kid, but maybe Tennessee will learn something and get a better gardener. Forrest Gump.
So I made the comment last week that other than Georgia, I think that Colorado and Coach Prime are the only week in, week out member of my outline, or our outline, that we've discussed every week. And I debated this morning if I was going to include Coach Prime in Colorado or not. I decided to give them one more week because we teased, what was going to happen this week for USC. It came to fruition. The first time I turned it on, Laurence, we turned it on, it was 30-something to nothing. Kind of looked the other way, went on the boat for a little bit, came back, and then the score got close. I really don't know how they got all those garbage time points, but it looks better in the box score than it was in reality. Caleb Williams, 6 touchdowns, whatever you wanted to do. But USC's defense, man, like, I don't know. I mean, we've discussed this before too. Like, I don't know if they're going to be able to stand up the test of time. But Gans, I'll give you one last time with Prime, and then I'm guessing next week and then in the weeks that follow, he's not going to be involved. But we saw this coming, and he was a lot quieter this week, and I think that we're kind of done with this story.
Well, I'm just happy that we don't have to hear as much about it. I don't watch game day anymore because it's hot garbage, but I did watch a little bit of the big noon kickoff, which was, broadcast from Boulder. And Coach Prime was on there for 35 minutes again. His team kicked off at noon. Why was he not with his team? Why
it's 10 a.m. Mountain Time, Gans.
Yeah, I know. 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Coach Prime was there. I saw the same thing. I didn't watch a ton of the game. I saw, they're up, they're kicking the shit out of them, and then Colorado did come back. Good on them. They've got Arizona State this weekend. I did watch some Arizona State a couple of weeks ago when they played USC. They're not an awful team, and it's in Tempe. Hope they don't run out of beer. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think they'll probably lose to Arizona State this week.
Arizona State lost to Cal this past weekend. It's going to be a pillow fight. Wouldn't surprise me if Colorado wins. But at the end of the day, like, I actually had to dig deep into the headlines to actually find out who Colorado's playing this week. So they're starting to fall off the radar. They're no longer headline news. It's what we expected. But to me, the takeaway for the USC Colorado game really is just how bad USC's defense is. They brought Alex Grinch back as defensive coordinator. Lincoln Riley thinks very highly of him. I mean, they can't stop a damn thing. Shedeur Sanders is good. They got some playmakers, but we all saw that Colorado doesn't have an offensive line, and if you can put pressure on them, you're going to destroy them. USC's best defensive player probably is Bear Alexander, and he couldn't get past there. I wish we had him, quite frankly, as you mentioned yesterday. But he couldn't get past a patchwork offensive line for Colorado. Shedeur Sanders lit him up and made it a game, and they lost by 7. So, hey, good on you, Buffaloes, for keep fighting. And we'll probably not talk about you until we get to bowl pick'em season.
Thank God.
The other team that we keep talking about, maybe we shouldn't, but their games are always on at 11 o'clock at night when everybody's watching, and it's going down to the wire every time. Notre Dame again. Talk about a pillow fight. Like, their game versus Duke, they won. Great. Notre Dame does nothing for me. I don't even think we need to spend any time talking about them, but the media will keep them in the top 10. They'll keep them on prime time. They can't score more than 20 points on anybody. So, again, unless you guys have something earth-shattering to share, we'll just move on from Notre Dame and
Give
Duke.
them enough credit. It's really hard to go on the road to Duke on a Saturday night and silence that crowd. It's very similar to Jordan-Hare, if you ask me. But yeah, I mean, they ripped off a run late in the game to get a 17-14 win. I like Duke's quarterback. He's a good story. He did get hurt. I don't know the severity of it. But yeah, Notre Dame, again, like, if they happen to run the table and get a 4th spot in the playoff, they're going to get the shit kicked out of them.
One quick note, TCU lost to West Virginia. They still have not recovered from that ass beating in January.
We killed them. All right. The last game to talk about, and we can dovetail it into the preview for Georgia's game. Kentucky took it to Florida, man. That was the early game. Wasn't very close. Kentucky ran all over them. That's 3 years in a row that the Gators have lost to Kentucky in football. I'm not talking about basketball. So just when we think Florida and Billy Napier doing something good, got something cooking, they don't. So what do y'all think about Kentucky as an opponent this week? And what was your takeaway from them kicking the crap out of Florida?
Again, any truth to the rumor that Billy Napier has shut down his Twitter account? I read that on social media today.
I've been off Twitter for quite some time. So
we need you back. Gans the Warrior has got to come back to Twitter. One of the better follows around. Come on, dude.
It wasn't
again. I think this is more a story of Florida just not being a good football team. They don't have the talent in the trenches. Kentucky ran all over them. Last year when we went up to Lexington and we played them, it was one of those games. It wasn't a very exciting one. We walked out of there with like a 10-point win where we ran the ball 100,000 times, and it was part of what Graham Coffey likes to call Monken's long con, where he just wanted to establish the offensive line and the run game and work on the different pass blocking and run blocking schemes. This year will be a little bit different, right? We're not there yet as a team where we can kind of like play choose your own adventure as we go into these games. Listen, I think we win. I think we cover the number. I think our defensive line and linebackers step up. From what I've seen from Kentucky, which admittedly isn't a lot, I feel like they're just kind of a one-trick pony. They never have a ton of offense. Their quarterback supposedly is good, but I guess if you have a guy who can run for 280 yards, you don't really have to show too much from a passing attack. But I think we take care of business between the hedges this weekend.
Ray Davis ran for 280 yards, as we mentioned. He's kind of a downhill runner. You're not going to see a lot of some of those zone read RPOs that, and really, I don't think you can use RPO for Auburn because they threw the ball like 4 times. But more zone read, off the edge. Devin Leary, their quarterback, who took over for Will Levis, is definitely a step down. He went 9 of 19 for 69 yards the other day.
Nice.
Yeah. Georgia's got to clean some things up. I really did like what I saw from the offense, though, in the second half. I'm hoping that last week was a turning point. Feed 19 the ball. Get him the ball any way you have to. We said this from the first show. Good things happen when 19 gets the ball. I don't want to salt your crackers here, Laurence, and you'll probably get to this. 15 seems like a weird number to me. I would have thought, based on the way we played, and based on the way that they played, it would have been a lower number than that. It actually makes me feel kind of good that it is a 2-touchdown line. I expect big things out of Carson Beck. I expect him to throw for 300 yards this weekend. I expect Brock Bowers to catch for 100, 100 yards receiving. I'd just like to see the defense clean things up a little bit. And I'd like to see us come out of the gates hot. I mean, we don't need to put up 22 points in the first quarter, but how about 7?
Is that asking too much?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So night game in Athens between 2 ranked teams. Us obviously number 1. Kentucky comes in at number 20. The fact checkers can tell us the last time we had a night game in Athens between 2 ranked SEC teams. Maybe it was last year. I don't know. But nonetheless, crowd will be nice and lathered up. We have the Braves going on the exact same time, taking on the winner of the Phillies and the Marlins. So you'll get that component where the PA announcer might update us with some Brave scores and get people even more going. So I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. Really much looking forward to it. All right, Jay Stein injury report. We're having fun doing that each week. We're recording this Sunday night. Kirby has not listed any new injuries from last week or what's looking like for next week. So we'll just kind of cover the prior big injuries. Ladd McConkey back on the field making plays. Great to see him back. Javon Bullard back making plays. God, how fast is that dude, by the way? I mean, you can noticeably see him just shrink distances and gaps to break up these passes. It's amazing. Graham Stein still questionable, which sucks. Lake activities were somewhat limited. Laurence, thank you for the ordering of the sit-up tube, which allowed him to enjoy tubing activities, not having to hold on for dear life with his shoulder. But he's still questionable. Now, the biggest injury report I want to mention is these damn Euro soccer flops by the Auburn Tigers. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Ugh.
It was almost every single drive that Georgia had something cooking, and you'd see somebody just fall and fake an injury. And in 2023, it's great because there's cameras everywhere. Everybody catches every little thing, and you can see on more than one occasion these guys blatantly just fake falling over. They look at the sidelines, get the signal, and they just go down. We got to stop this. Something's got to happen. Unsportsmanlike conduct, some sort of penalty, because it's just being used to the advantage of the defense to slow down an offense that's moving. And I, for one, am sick of it. I don't see Georgia guys doing it. Maybe it's happened a time or two, but Auburn, to me, was consistently taking advantage of that rule. So I know you guys saw it. We got to do something about that.
Yeah, UAB did it the week before. Auburn did it a handful of times. Due to the beauty of modern technology and being able to catch it on social media, nothing's going to be done about it this year. But I think that's something that the SEC office needs to look long and hard of. Do you issue some sort of penalty or half game suspension, like a targeting or something like that, if it's viewed that you're delaying the game intentionally and faking an injury? It's total Bush League, dude. It reminds me of the Brazilian football team in the World Cup just rolling around like they got sniped. And it's BS.
Make them take a timeout or a delay game if they don't have any timeouts left. It was ridiculous. We have done it before. Yesterday was egregious, but the refs were absolutely awful yesterday.
So week 6 slate, y'all mentioned Bama and A&M. They are playing this weekend, right? I think they're the 3:30 game. Always a fun game to watch. So we'll see what happens there. Gans, Texas OU, Red River Rivalry. Cotton Bowl. Is that Texas State Fair where they play that thing?
It is.
The early game. Like, I always enjoy hearing you talk about your experiences there, how the crowd gets hyped for is an 11 o'clock local kick.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the scenery, the drinking, what's the
Yeah.
crowd like? What's Oklahoma got coming in against Texas? What are we looking forward to?
Yeah, so of course it's much like Georgia, Florida in the sense that the stadium's split in half. I don't know why they do it at 11 a.m. local time, but the Cotton Bowl is a massive shithole. This is the only college football game they play a year there. There might be a bowl game like the Heart of Dallas bowl game. It's in the hood. It is around Fair Park. And they do have the fair going on while it's there. Here's for any of our friends listening that might be inclined to go to the Texas State Fair. Little pro tip here: they serve their beers in wax paper cups, and by the time you get to the bottom of it, it tastes disgusting. So what I do, I bring my own cup. I'm one of the few people. I bring my own cup to the Texas State Fair. I bring a red Solo cup, and I order my beers in those wax things, and I pour it in there. Huge difference. That being said, I think it's going to be a really good game. I'm excited to see it. Texas has looked very good. Quinn Ewers has been great. Adonai, don't call me A.D. Mitchell, had 10 catches for 150 yards or something this weekend. Oklahoma undefeated. They're not getting a ton of love based on where their rankings are at. Dylan Gabriel has been pretty serviceable thus far. I believe Texas is, again, 3.5, 4.5 point favorite.
5.
Is it ticked up to 5? I think Texas will win. Dare I say it, Texas actually might be back, but we'll learn a little bit more this weekend. But it's a really cool environment. Weather in Dallas this weekend is usually awesome. The whole town is basically shut down for Texas OU. It's really cool.
You know who I think would really enjoy the Texas State Fair is Robert Evan Unell. I think he would have a blast. I think they're serving fried fireball shots at the Texas State Fair this year. It would be a good venue for him. I'd like to follow him around with a video camera and do some one bite challenges with Big Bob.
So I've been to the Texas State Fair probably 5 years in a row. I've never actually eaten there because all the food looks absolutely atrocious. Plus, I'm filling myself up on cheap beer. And here's another thing, another pro tip for you. Each beer stand, they're like independently run, so they're not the same prices. If you know where the cheap beer stands are and you bring your own cup, you're gonna have a hell of a day. But good luck getting out of there for under $300 or $400. Every time I go there, it's costing me a lot.
Are you going? Will you be there this year?
We are not. We are taking a hiatus this year. We the Gans family will be going on fall break next week. We don't know where yet.
So far be it from me to give you any sort of advice on how to go about your consumption of food and alcohol at the Texas State Fair. But what I'd like to see is bring a Masters Cup with you. Bring one of those nice Masters Cups and ditch the red cup and just roll with one of those.
That's a great point. But again, think about I'm flying to Dallas. I would have had to think about that on Wednesday, Thursday as I'm packing, and I forgot to do that. So in fact, not only do I just bring a red Solo cup, I bring a few because occasionally I'll toss one, and so I stack them.
This only requires you to think about it one time and then just leave it in Dallas. Leave it at your in-laws' house. You got plenty of those Masters Cups at home.
I'll never see it again.
Hey, you travel with a car, Lime. Why would you not have extra Masters Cups in your carry-on?
Exactly.
Well, I brought the reds.
Exactly.
I'd like to pose this out there for our loyal listeners. Does anybody find it odd that I keep a lime in my car at all times?
I find it helpful because there's been more than one occasion where you came to my house and I had lime and like a liquid lime, which that does not work for you. And you're like, no worries, no problem. I'll be right back. I'm like, I guess my guy's going to Publix or Kroger. You got back in 13 seconds, just to your car. It was in the glove compartment.
I've started keeping one in Lindsay's car as well.
Always prepared, right? Always prepared. Respect, my friend.
Yeah. Is it 6 piece or 7 piece? Either way, you've got them. Laurence, sucker bet, dude. Arizona hit. You're back in the win column. You're smiling more today. There's more pep in your step. How you feeling?
Back in the win column. So as we mentioned, we were up at Hartwell this weekend. We wrapped up LSU Ole Miss. I go to turn on Pac-12 After Dark to find out that the Washington-Arizona game is not televised. And so I was following this game along till 1:30 a.m. Eastern time from my phone on the Score Mobile app. There was one point where Arizona got the ball, they started driving, and I was like, they can milk the clock here, score a touchdown, and ice the spread. They throw an interception, and now here I go. I think I'm going to keep the losing streak going. But Arizona came through. They lost by 7. I do think Washington was on the road. I think I may be wrong, but Washington I guess maybe Washington has a bye this week, but Oregon is their next game. So maybe a little bit of a look ahead for them, but they're playing really good football. They just did not cover this week. So Yahoo for me. We're back on the right side of the sucker bet. Good stuff.
Now, we're recording, as we mentioned, Sunday night. Does that put you at a disadvantage of coming up with your week 6 sucker bet? Are we going to hear that from you again, that the data is not in? You've not analyzed the lines closely enough? Where are we at?
So the lines came out this afternoon. There's a few that I'm looking at. I'm not yet ready to make a call, but quite honestly, the one line that jumps out to me that already you're seeing a heavily public wager on is Kentucky plus the points. And so I think that I'm not going to call them the sucker bet, but y'all keep an eye on it. I think the Dogs take care of business this weekend.
We'll check back in later on the week because we've got to get you down for whatever your pick is going to be to keep the running tally going. But fair enough. We know you got to have your data come in. All right, Jason, Jimbo of the week. Last week, there were so many contenders. I feel like this week, people were a little better behaved. They might have been listening and being afraid to get called out here. Where'd you land?
Well, it seems like it. I did struggle a little bit, and I'll give you a little spoiler alert here. The person that ultimately is going to win this week's prize wasn't based on anything asinine that they said, just purely performance. But our 3 candidates. So one, at some point, we're just going to have to change this to like the Jimbo of the day. Ryan Day it made the list as a finalist this week, and I think one of you guys were the ones to send it over. His comments, somebody asked him during a bye week in the presser, if he's done anything romantic with his wife lately, what's the romance there? And his answer was beating Notre Dame. There's something off with that guy. Again, I used to say that Jim Harbaugh was a serial killer, and I stand by that wholeheartedly. Ryan Day is entering that territory as well. He did not win it this week, but again, he definitely made our podium. Another one, and Laurence was kind enough to turn me on to this, but our old friend Gus Malzahn, speaking of Auburn, the last Auburn coach to beat us, was up 35-7 against Baylor. Baylor is not a good team. Baylor came back and won 36-35 with, I think in about 20 minutes, they came back and covered that. Right there, that's deservable. But the winner of this week, and this one's going to hit kind of close to home, is one Brent Key. Brent Key lost to Bowling Green after Bowling Green put up 38 unanswered points. Georgia Tech paid Bowling Green $1.1 million to come to the Flats to play them for a Patsy Cupcake W that will potentially get you bowl eligible. So one note, our friend Mookie Blaylock Jr. Did have a nice game, so happy for him there, Don Blaylock. But Brent Key, you are the Jimbo of the day.
Was some of the criteria that went into his award this week the fact they wore glow-in-the-dark uniforms at 3:30?
Absolutely atrocious. You can't lose to when you're putting a Patsy on the schedule. You can't. Not only they lose, they lost by 11 to Bowling Green, giving up 38 unanswered points. Then he demoted. I should add this too. He demoted his defensive coordinator, promoted Kevin Sherr, who a lot of our loyal listeners will remember from the Dogs, and then he went to Tennessee. Not a good defense.
Does that make our Ball State win look better since Maction is getting a win against a Power 5 team?
I guess it does. Strength of schedule.
So
but yeah, I myself have a Jimbo, Josh. It's a non-football related Jimbo award, if you would allow me for 30 seconds. I went to the Braves game last week on, I forget, Wednesday night, Thursday night, whatever it was, when Acuna hit the 40-70 club, a feat that has never, ever, ever happened in the history of Major League Baseball. Is that correct? I believe that's correct. He took, 30 seconds to take the bag out, put it in the dugout. He got some MVP chants, some celebration. And then we start seeing on social media that the Cubs commentary team was dragging him through the mud and basically saying it was Bush League move. Why is he wasting time in this game that's oh so important? But if you go back and look at history, Look at how much time the Cubs took when Sammy Sosa broke the home run record, and when him and Barry Bonds were in their roid-infused home run race, they'd stop games for time on end to celebrate. And for them to call out Acuna, I think it's just such a Bush League move. Acuna just did something that's never been done, and he should be applauded for it.
Agreed. And, Twitter and the national media are all on Team Acuna on this one. The Cubs those guys got crucified. I mean, it was funny, like, they got eliminated last night and all the tweets came out. It's like, Cubs eliminated due to Acuna celebrating 15 seconds, celebrating the record, something like that. Come on, Cubs, give me a break. Be better. Last thing I'll say about Brent Key is, like, all of us have Georgia Tech friends that are fans of Georgia Tech, and you just can't. What are you going to say to them? But Laurence, I feel like your friends that are Tech fans, like, they still kind of have some machismo and some bravado. What the hell do they say about that loss? I mean, do you get texts from them? Do you hear from them? Is it just crickets?
It's been crickets, man. It's been crickets. Earlier in the season, they should have won week 1 against Louisville, who's now undefeated. They were very excited about, the hope and optimism that comes with, a moral victory in week 1. Been crickets, man. And it's unfortunate. Like, I mean, listen, I think it's better for the state and it's better for us when the Tech game's competitive, and lately it just hasn't been. Something's got to change there. Hopefully, Brent Key, it is year 1, give him some time, but hey, Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe his first year, so maybe Brent Key just needs a little more time, but he's got work to do.
There's hope to be had. Guys, great week coming up ahead of us. Cannot wait for Saturday night. Dogs versus Cats under the lights. Braves versus, I don't care. I mean, in years past, I've said I hope we played this team. Whatever. Bring them up. Phillies, Marlins, doesn't matter. But it's gonna be a good time. So thank you all for listening out there, and we'll see you next week. Until then, go Dogs, go Braves, keep chopping all of it. Later, dudes.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. Braves.